episode of the True Crimes of Criminal Minds. Today, we're going to be talking about the third episode of the first season, and it's called Won't Get Fooled Again. And if you're wondering, yes, it is named after the Who song. To talk about this episode, we kind of need to go back to the first episode and talk about Gideon a little bit. When the season starts, Gideon is not on active duty. He's teaching a class at Quantico. And Reed is sent to go get him. And then he's back on active duty. And the reason why he was on medical leave was because 6 months prior, there was serial bombings, and Gideon caught the bomber. So when Gideon caught the bomber still had the remote in his hand, and there were still 6 agents inside the building. And he pushed the button and he blew up the agents, and Gideon feels like that was his fault. He's responsible, and so he had a nervous breakdown, which Reed very quickly tells Morgan that it's called a major depressive disorder. So this episode takes place in Palm Beach, Florida, and people are getting package bombs that are exploding and injuring or killing them. And Derek stays in Washington because he has bomb experience, and they sent him all the parts of the bomb that blew up, and he put them back together, and he realizes that he's dealing with Adrian Bale's signature. That is the guy that Gideon caught. Someone is copying his bombs because Adrian Bale is in prison. There's a lot of bombers out there, and I looked at several of them, but the one I decided to tell y'all about is the Austin mail bombings that happened in 2018. Because they were all package bombs left on porches. Austin, Texas is the 11th largest city in the country and is known as the Silicon Valley of Texas. And I have no idea why that's important, but it was in the documentary, so I'm just telling y'all. The first bomb detonated on March 2nd, 2018. It killed a 39-year-old African-American male named Anthony Stephen House. He lived in a neighborhood where the houses were similar, and the cops thought it was mistaken identity because there was a stash house in the neighborhood. And the cops just assumed that was the reason for the bombing and expected, if any more bombing at all, to be to the real stash house. So they told the public, everything's fine, don't worry, just go about your business. The second bomb detonated on March 12th, 2018. This package actually made it off the porch into the house and exploded while it was being opened. And it killed 17-year-old African-American Draylon Mason, and his mother was severely injured, but she survived. Now, the only connection between these people were that Stephen House's dad was friends with Draylon Mason's grandfather, and they went to the same church. The only connection other than that they were both black. And the third bomb went off the same day on the 12th. 75-year-old Esperanza Herrera was visiting her elderly mother, and there was a package on the porch. When she stepped on the porch, the vibrations from her footstep set the bomb off. She was seriously injured, but she survived. So now the cops are starting to think we have a serial bomber in Austin. So the first 3 bombings took place on the east side of Austin, which is predominantly African American and Latino. So they thought it was a hate crime. The governor, Greg Abbott, allocated $365,000 of government money to investigate this case. The police offered a $30,000 reward, which was then increased to $100,000, and the governor also added $15,000. The fourth bomb totally took the case in another direction. This bomb, anybody could have stumbled over. It was a tripwire across a sidewalk, and it actually made a lot of the agents angry, because anybody, a mom strolling a baby, a little kid, an elderly person, anybody. It wasn't targeted at anybody. It was just whoever happened to trip the wire. And the package it was connected to was over in the grass. And there was a stake with a sign on it that stuck it to the ground. And it said, "Drive like your kids live here." Ironic, but strange. Anyway, that tripwire injured two males, one 22-year-old, one 23-year-old. And the cops asked everybody to stay in their homes in that neighborhood and closed off the streets. And there were more than 500 FBI and ATF agents dispatched to solve these series of bombings. The ATF stayed in their vans all night long looking for suspicious activities. And then the next morning, they did another bomb sweep, and they didn't find any more bombs. Now, the fifth bomb is the one that got him caught. He actually mailed these bombs. The first three was left on porches. The fourth bomb was a tripwire. The fifth bomb, now he decides he's going to mail them. So he goes into a FedEx office, has two packages. He's disguised, he's got a wig on, he has pink gloves on his hands, and there's no return address on the packages. And the clerk in the FedEx store was suspicious. So after the guy left, he actually went out and looked to see what car he got into. He got into a 2002 red Ford Ranger, and it was parked 3 businesses away. He didn't want anyone to see him drive up to that FedEx facility. So the fifth bomb exploded at a FedEx facility. Nobody was hurt. The cops were able to come in, look at the bomb fragments, and figure out how the bomb was made. And it had nails and pieces of metal in it for shrapnel to cause the most damage. Since they knew the way he made the bombs and the things that he bought and the weird pink gloves he had on, they looked at stores to try to find out where someone could buy those things. And the only store they came up with was Home Depot. So they knew there was a second package because they saw it on the videotape. They called around to different FedEx facilities to find that second package before it exploded, and they were able to defuse the bomb and nobody else was injured. So since all the things for the bomb were bought at Home Depot, a technical analyst at the FBI, just like our favorite technical analyst, Penelope Garcia, this analyst's name is Jordana. And what Jordana did, she watched hours of footage of Home Depot sales during the time of the bombings. Then she took the list of the names of people that bought those supplies and cross-referenced them with DMV records until they found one of those shoppers that owned a 2002 red Ford Ranger pickup truck. After 18 days, 23-year-old Mark Anthony Condent was identified as the unsub. He knew that the police was on to him, so he did not go home. He stayed away from his house, turned off his cell phone, thought he was doing everything he could to throw the cops off. For some reason, he turned his cell phone back on at 1 a.m. and it pinged at the Marriott Courtyard Hotel. The cops went to the hotel, they found his vehicle, and there was exhaust coming out of it, and they didn't know if he was in it or not. And they just sat and waited and watched. And then he took off, and the cops followed him. Now, there was a great big chase, chasing his truck, and there were FBI vans, ATF vans, the works following after him. It was like a caravan. It was lots of cars. The plan was to bump him, to push him over into the right side ditch, and then they would apprehend him from the car. But it didn't go as planned. And when they bumped him, instead of going right, he went left into the left ditch. So the cops went to the passenger side to apprehend him. So when the cops went to the passenger side door to talk to the bomber, he detonated a bomb in his car, killing himself. Now, the biggest blast went out the driver's side window. So had they bumped him and he went to the right, they would have come around to the driver's side window and they would have been killed along with the bomber. And this might seem weird to you, but I think that was God. I think that God veered that car to the left instead of the right. But that's just my personal belief. So one of the cops was injured, but not killed. After the explosion, they went to his house, and there they found his cell phone. On his cell phone was a 25-minute manifesto that he had recorded, where he said that he just did it for fun. He also said, "I wish I was sorry, but I'm not." So this guy was a very sick and twisted individual. Because of this, FedEx instituted a rule that anytime you mail a package, now you have to show a government-issued ID card with your address on it. So that's the story of Mark Anthony Condit that did the serial bombings in Austin, Texas in 2018. Okay guys, so that's it for the Austin serial bomber in episode 3 of Criminal Minds. So be sure to subscribe, hit that thumbs up, smash the bell for notifications, and I will see you next week with more True Crimes of Criminal Minds. Have an excellent week, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye! These 3 bombings were done on the east side of Austin, which is a that's not how you say predominantly. I can't say it. Predominantly. So, on March, I say so a lot. I don't like that. Have an excellent weekend. No, it is not weekend.